God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, be with you and remain with you now and
Hi there everyone, Jack here again at the Vinyl Voyage with another video. This one focusing on obscure, lo-fi, neo-psychedelic records. And the records I'm going to show are all albums that span from about 85 to the early noughties. So about a 20-year period. And all of them have lo-fi, none of them have been recorded in fancy studios. They've all been recorded through grit, determination, passion and creativity. And they're certainly creative albums and obscure as well, but I suppose that word's relative. Some of them may not be obscure to you if you are heavily into the neo-psych scene. They might be albums that you're really familiar with, but all of them started off in obscurity. Some of them have achieved cult status, others are still probably quite obscure. So let's get right into it. The first one I think is definitely an obscure album. I'd never heard of them before until I got this. They're a band out of Holland, from Amsterdam, and it is Ford's Imaginary Inferno, and this is from 2003, their fifth album, Summer Breeze and Magic Trees. And this is very harmonious psychedelic pop, that kind of psychedelic folk flavour to it as well. I think that comes across in the cover. But yeah, really spacious sound, quite pastoral at parts. You hear birds chirping and all that kind of thing. Very spacious, but lovely, beautifully crafted 60s inspired pop songs, and really, really easy to get into. Like I said, I'd never heard of this band before. I'll definitely check out some more of their other stuff. Now, I don't think this looks like an album from early 2000s. If you look at that album art, this looks like something that came off of the Woronzow label from the mid-80s. It looks like a UK psych album, I think, from the 80s. But it is Dutch. And you can see there, €10. I got it for the bargain price of €10 in Wawa Records in Barcelona. And this one was a blind buy. I went to their neo-psych section, was hunting through all these albums. So there was loads of Sundial. If you're a Sundial fan, Wawa Records is the place to go. There was loads of Sundial albums. I hadn't heard of this one before, so I said it was a bit of a blind buy. I did go on Discogs, and Discogs said that there was about 100 records put out in the first run, and they sold out straight away. They were on transparent yellow vinyl, and then it was pushed out as a white vinyl issue. Now, this was sealed when I got it, a nice sealed record for €10. So I had no idea whether it was the yellow vinyl or the white vinyl. I assumed it was the white because there was an opened one for €30 that had the yellow vinyl. But I was pleasantly surprised when I opened it that it was the rarer yellow vinyl. Nice labels as well. And yeah, just a beautiful sounding album. Really cool. So I've been getting to grips with this album over the last week, and yeah, really easy to get into. Standout tracks on here. The first track's really nice, Colours into Grey. The second side, it's quite hard to read the tracks in the second side. I'm going to take this shrink off, but the second side sounds a little, there's moments where it sounds a little bit like the Zombies, like kind of classic pop psych sound. So not with that kind of level of orchestration or anything, but that's the kind of feel that I have. And I believe this was recorded on an 8-track by this guy. So he does everything pretty much on here. I think this is a pseudonym, Hans F. Ford. It says here he recorded it, he mixed it, and he wrote the songs as well. Yeah, Hans F. Ford, but cool stuff. I'll definitely check out more. That's Ford's Imaginary Inferno with Summer Breeze and Magic Trees. Number 1. So the next one is an album from the US, from a Baltimore band. This was recorded in 85 and put out in 86 and considered one of the first US bands in the psych revival of the 80s. It is the fantastic The United States of Existence, and this is their only album introducing the United States of Existence. Check out that album art, it's so cool. So this is very, what I think of as like traditional neo-psych. It sounds like their heroes from yesteryear. It's all fuzzy guitars, 60s sounding organs. It's got harpsichord on here, a theremin, electric sitar, and the band dressed up in Nehru suits and all the rest of it. So what some people would call cosplay psychedelia or cosplay neo-psych, looking backwards, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I love this album. It's really, really catchy. I said it does hark back to the Electric Prunes, the Strawberry Alarm Clock, the Standells, all these great bands. And that's what the band set out to do, because the United States of Existence were actually, they started in the mid-70s as a prog band called Klangfarb. And this band, Klangfarb, they never actually put out an album. They had a couple of songs on compilations, I think on Bomp compilations that were put out by Greg Shaw, and he ended up being a fan of this band and a kind of champion of the band when they switched to psychedelia, the late 70s, early 80s. The reason the switch came around was they were actually real vinyl heads. They were really into their records, and when they started discovering psychedelic music, psychedelia was very unfashionable at the time. So they were going to record stores and getting into the bargain bins and picking up 40-cent, 50-cent records, what would be absolute grails nowadays. They were picking them up for peanuts, and they would try and outdo each other by trying to find the most obscure 60s psych albums. And that's where a lot of the influence here comes from. In terms of being lo-fi, it really, really is lo-fi. I think it was recorded in their organ player's basement, and it was recorded on an 8-track with a mixer set up on a picnic table. And basically the basement wasn't compatible for their needs, the amount of power that was going through their basement, because when they used to play the theremin on certain songs, the theremin would cause the lights to short, and they would blow a fuse and they would be plunged into darkness. So real troopers for the cause. But yeah, this is excellent stuff. They signed to BAM Caruso. This was put out in the UK label BAM Caruso, great label for all those great Nuggets compilations, Rubble compilations, the UK counterpart to Nuggets. But as a result of this being put out in the UK, I don't think it was ever released in the US. I don't think they achieved much fame or much success in the US, because this was put out in the UK. They never toured either. They were a studio band. So yeah, I'll just show you them. That's them there, dressed up in their finest 1960s regalia. Yeah, they've got a really great sound. It's really upbeat, very fuzzy. BAM Caruso label. Very, very catchy. And it's what you see is what you get. It sounds like a 1960s garage psych band. Some great songs on here. I love the opening track. Love to the 44th Power is brilliant. A Scandal in Bohemia. They're all great. Anything Goes is fantastic as well. In fact, the song Anything Goes, they were big fans of the Association, and I think the Association were playing in their town as they were recording, and they reached out to the Association, and the guys from the Association came and provided backing vocals for that song, Anything Goes. Great sunshine pop band. And the song Gone has excellent sitar, electric sitar. Volunteer Fireman has that great harpsichord sound. So really, really good stuff. If you like bands like Plastic Land and stuff like that, you would love the United States of Existence. So another beauty. That one was from 86, I believe. Okay, next up, something a little bit more contemporary, or not too contemporary. Again, sticking to the US, this is Kelley Stoltz with Antique Glow. And I think, sure this is from 2002. This is from, and Kelley Stoltz is a bit more of a household name now. I don't know if he's originally from San Francisco. I know that in fact, he moved to San Francisco with his pal, who was a drummer, and the idea was that they were going to go to San Francisco and record an album. And the story goes is that his friend got more seduced by the San Francisco nightlife than making an album, and Kelley Stoltz ended up going it alone, so he had to teach himself to play the drums. He records this album in its entirety, he plays every instrument, he sourced all the instruments, I think he mixed it all down as well. But yeah, this is a masterpiece. For me, this is a modern masterpiece. Recorded on an 8-track Tascam, and when you read up about the recording behind this, it's crazy. Like, he had no bass, so he just detuned his guitar, and he uses a detuned guitar. He had no mic stand, so he would wedge his microphone into an open drawer. Other things, like he went and bought an organ, an old electric organ out of a Salvation Army store for $50. That became known as his granny organ. So it's all played with these like basic instruments and really basic recording setup, but in no way at all does it sound like that. There's Kelley there. This is like, it's like almost like a modern Odyssey and Oracle. It sounds so good. But yeah, there's other like funny kind of lo-fi elements to the release of this album. So when it was released in its initial run of 300 copies, to keep costs down, Kelley Stoltz decided to create his own album art, his own album covers. So what he did was he went to a second-hand store and he went to the bargain bin and he bought 300 interesting looking albums, tossed away the vinyl, and he kind of bastardized the covers. He added his own artwork to make these really cool, unique covers. So the original copies of this go for a fortune. So this is a 20th anniversary version. It comes in this nice die-cut sleeve where you can swap out different versions of the original cover. So let me show you a couple. You've got this one, a skier. He's kind of painted over the top. You've got this, looks like a maple leaf, or is that like a baby's face and he's painted a maple leaf over the top? That's a really cool one, where he looks like he's stuck different appliances on the heads of these people. This is my favourite. You've got these, or this couple in an intimate conversation. One of them now has a mushy pea head, and the other one looks like their head's like maybe a mince round from the butcher shop. But yeah, it looks really cool and really unique. Comes on this nice blue splattered vinyl. But yeah, the music on here, very melodic, really nice harmonies, and a range of, I suppose, musical sounds. Some of it there's quite a lot of orchestration at some parts, and then at other parts it's got a more stripped back, almost kind of fragile Nick Cave sound. Nick Drake sound. But yeah, excellent. It's a lyric sheet as well. But yeah, an excellent album, and probably one that would now be considered a bit of a cult classic, because Kelley Stoltz has released a number of albums. I've got some of his later albums which sound far more produced. He's got a lot more clout now, I suppose, and studio backing and all the rest of it. But this, his second album, is just an absolute lo-fi masterpiece, and you can pick this 20th anniversary up for cheap. I think I got it for £18 or something like that. So it's not an expensive album. You also get an extra record with a load of outtakes and demos, songs that didn't quite make the album, and these songs are brilliant as well. There's a song on there on the D side called To Beck, and he didn't put that on the album because he felt that it sounded too much like Beck, and it really does sound like Beck. It's actually a fantastic song. It sounds a bit like the New Pollution. by Beck, but yeah, really rate Kelley Stoltz. Excellent stuff. Antique Glow. Check that one out if you've not heard it. So the next album is an is might not be an obscure album to you. It might not be obscure to you if you live in America, because I believe this band are a lot bigger in America than they are in the UK, despite being an English band. They're from London, but certainly a new band to me, and I'm really, really enjoying this. This is the Clientele with Suburban Light. Maybe not technically their first album, it may be more of a compilation of their early singles and demos. But yeah, this is really, really good. Again, really harmonious, psychedelic, beautifully crafted 60s inspired pop songs. And I love that sound. A really, really clean guitar sound. It just sounds really intricate and delicate. The songwriting is brilliant. All the songs on here are great. And this is another one. Well, it's an album from, I think it was recorded late 90s, early 2000s. I think this was put out in 2001. But again, this sounds more like an 80s record. It's got that clean, almost like felt, that clean guitar sound. But the vocals at times to me remind me a little bit of Davy Jones from the Monkees. Not on all the songs, but a couple of them have a bit of a Davy Jones feel to them. But yeah, they were a three-piece out of London. And in this package, you get lots of cool little stuff. So you get a CD with lots of demos, earlier demos, and outtakes and stuff like that, and I think B-sides and all the rest. So it says here, recorded in 8-track tape in various flats and houses in Hampshire and London. Unbelievable again that this was recorded on an 8-track, and I believe the very same 8-track that Kelley Stoltz recorded his album on, it was a Tascam 488. But yeah, the lead singer here, Alistair MacLean, he's just got a way with writing a tune. He is a great songwriter, and I think they've got like 5 or 6 different albums out. Yeah, there they are. So I'll definitely be digging deeper into their back catalogue. So like I said, I've never heard of this one before, so certainly obscure to me. I was gifted this by my good friend Gordon at I Dig Vinyl. So thank you very much, Gordon, for introducing me to the Clientele, because I hadn't even heard of them, I don't think, before. Yeah, such good stuff. And again, a lovely put together package. Really, really nice. So that is one that I've been enjoying. I've been enjoying a lot recently. I've had that on all the time. Here's the hype. It says on here, Billboard, brilliant. So yeah, I would agree with that. It is brilliant. A bonus CD with 10 extra recordings on Merge Records. So that's like a bit of a anniversary edition, I believe. But yeah, top notch stuff. Really, really good. So well crafted, 60s inspired psychedelic pop songs. So we'll definitely be checking more of the Clientele. That's their early stuff, Suburban Light. Right, last one then. Another band from the United States, Elf Power, one of the kind of main bands from the Elephant Six collective that operated out of Athens, Georgia, beginning in the mid-90s. And this is one of the early albums from that scene. And probably maybe not technically of that scene, because I don't really think it had properly got going in 94 when this was recorded. But this is very, very lo-fi, recorded in a 4-track. And I think you even get the sense of that from the album cover. You see this very crudely drawn creature with what looks like maybe blood coming from his possibly amputated limbs. This isn't really representative of Elf Power's later sound. This is quite an abrasive, harsh, noisy alt rock sound with experimental leanings. So yeah, all kind of homemade album art as well. The vocals on this, they remind me a little bit of Elliott Smith. They've got a bit of an Elliott Smith feel, some of them, not all of them, but Pioneer Mansion, that opening track, is experimental, it's very noisy. I really like the song Slither Hither, the opening track in side 2 is really cool. Kind of psychedelic sounding guitar, or experimental, I suppose is probably a better word. Experimental sounding guitar, kind of acoustic backing. But yeah, there's cello on some of the tracks, flutes, lots of noisy acoustic and basic recorded guitars. The inlay says here on this side, thanks a bunch, you're too kind. This is our logo, we like our logo. Yeah, a little bit of detail in some of the songs. The song that I really like, Slither Hither, is about a king that's trying to cope with his best night, becoming an evil minion of his reptilian foes. So yeah, kind of strange stuff. Like I said, maybe not representative of their later sound or the sound of the Elephant Six Collective in general. If anything, this would be closer in sound to, especially with that acoustic guitar and kind of abrasive guitar leads and stuff. It sounds a little bit like In the Aeroplane Over the Sea, but without the quality songwriting of that. There's a few covers on here. Drugstore by US punk band The Dwarfs, and Surgery by the great Robin Hitchcock. Arachnid Dungeon Attack, that's a noisy experimental one, the last track. Arachnid Dungeon Attack. But yeah, an album that seems to be quite focused on amputations. You've got Temporary Arm is the second song, which is about an amputation, or the arm that's given to someone after an amputation, and then obviously the title track, Vainly Clutching at Phantom Limbs. Kind of strange focus for songwriting subject matter, but there you go. Elf Power with Vainly Clutching at Phantom Limbs. So there you go, that is my 5 obscure. You think they're obscure? Some of them might be, some of them may be more cult albums, but certainly they're all lo-fi albums that were all recorded under the most basic of conditions. Some of them, you hear that more than others. Certainly that Elf Power album, it sounds like a lo-fi album, whereas the Clientele album sounds like it was recorded in a studio, as does the Kelley Stoltz, or certain songs in the Kelley Stoltz album sound more lush. But overall, 5 great albums. I'd love to hear your recommendations as always. Any lo-fi albums, psychedelic albums especially, that you want to recommend. I love that type of stuff. For me, it's all about the songwriting rather than how fancy the studio it was recorded in. The passion just comes through better, I think, on lo-fi albums. So any recommendations, I would love to hear them. And likewise, any information about the albums or bands that I've shown, I'd love to hear what you've got to say as well. If anybody knows anything about the Ford's Imaginary Inferno album, the Summer Breeze and Magic Trees album, there was literally nothing on that. There's a few minor details on the internet that I could find, but I didn't know much about that band at all. So if anybody's got any further info on that band or any of their other releases, I would love to hear it. And until the next time, cheers for watching. See you later. Bye for now.